The first thing Dr. Elias Ridgway noticed was the flicker of violet light under the ice, a pulse so faint he might have dismissed it as sunlight refracting through a crevasse. But nothing in Antarctica's Ross Sea sector emitted light in perfect hexagonal beats, each pulse precisely 3 seconds apart, whisper bright against the polar twilight. He eased onto his belly, peering through meters of blue-white solidity. There, entombed like an ancient insect in amber, lay the outline of a woman. Her limbs were folded in a posture of silent prayer. Silver hair streamed about her shoulders as though suspended in water. A thin membrane of ice coated her skin, reflecting the violet glow that came, impossibly, from beneath her sternum. Elias's breath fogged his visor, and for the first time in 10 Antarctic field seasons, he forgot the numbness clawing at his fingers. He radioed base with a voice that trembled. "You're not going to believe what I've found." 6 hours later, the drilling rig thrummed above the crevasse. The outpost's entire winter crew, 7 scientists and 2 logistics officers, clustered around Elias's workstation, watching sensor streams arc into the red. What looked like a human woman was buried 21 meters down, sealed in ice older than recorded history. Her biometrics made no sense. Tissue density beyond any terrestrial life form, and the faint electric spike of a heartbeat that had, somehow, waited millennia between beats. The team argued protocols, speculating cryogenic stasis, experimental gene lines, even hoax. The debate ended when Elias's superior, glaciologist Dr. Ree, overrode hesitation with a single sentence. "If she's alive, we owe her a chance to breathe." They cut a cofferdam, melted a narrow shaft with thermal lances, and winched the translucent sarcophagus into a sterile module. Frost steamed from the block, revealing a face serene and unlined, lips faintly parted as though frozen mid-word. Her attire, if it could be called that, was a seamless sheath of metallic fiber, etched with symbols that spiraled like star charts. Elias traced one of the glyphs through the ice before catching himself, embarrassed by the archaeologist's awe blooming in his chest. Whatever else she was beautiful in an unearthly, heart-arresting way. With the block secured, they initiated controlled warming. Layers of ice sloughed away in crystalline sheets, exposing perfect skin the color of moonlit alabaster. Sensors flared. Oxygen uptake spiked. Neural patterns fluttered. At 4 degrees Celsius her eyelids quivered. The violet light beneath her sternum brightened to a soft corona. Then, with a crack like distant thunder, the final shell split and the woman collapsed into Elias's arms, dripping meltwater. Her eyes snapped open, irises a deep amethyst ringed by concentric gold. She inhaled once, sharply, as though tasting the atmosphere, and whispered a musical syllable that resonated in Elias's bones. Sigma Alpha Iota. Communication at first was a labyrinth. She spoke no Earth language. Their translation AIs failed to map her phonemes to any known tongue. She recoiled from bright light yet stared unblinking at stars through the dome's skylight. When offered food, she touched each item delicately to her forehead before deciding whether to eat, as though scent lay not in her nose but her skin. The only clue to her identity was the glowing sigil on her chest, now dimmed to a persistent ember. Elias noticed its rhythm matched the Schumann resonance of Earth's electromagnetic field, pulsing in sympathetic harmony with the planet itself. They named her Lyra, both for the star-shaped scar on her left palm and because the melodic quality of her voice reminded Elias of a cosmic harp. Lyra accepted the name with a gracious nod, then surprised them by writing it in perfect Latin script on Elias's notepad, alongside an avalanche of alien symbols that drifted off the page, as though the paper's edges could not contain her thoughts. Days passed. A blizzard sealed the station, grounding flights. Outside, katabatic winds screamed like freight trains, But inside, a different storm brewed. Corporate representatives from Polaris Deep Core, the conglomerate funding the expedition, demanded custody of Lyra, citing salvage rights. Dr. Ree resisted fiercely. She is a sentient being, not property. Yet Deep Core's men were en route with armed security, their 3 days. Lyra sensed the tension. One night, while the others slept, she gestured for Elias to follow her into the equipment bay. She brushed her palm across the metal door, and it dilated as if the steel remembered a shape more fluid. They descended into the crevassed tunnel, now lit only by Lyra's chest light, until the glacier swallowed all trace of the human world. There, in the cathedral silence, she knelt and placed her ear to the ice. The violet glow flared, coursing through fissures like veins of liquid amethyst. An entire chamber awakened, walls of pure ice refracting scenes like holographic tapestries, starships adrift among nebulae, crystalline cities perched on rings of gas giants, a council of tall, luminous figures standing around a sphere that looked uncannily like Earth. Elias realized the glacier itself was a vault, a time-locked archive storing the memories of a civilization lost before humans chipped their first spear. Lyra pressed her palm to the ice and a panel parted, revealing a spindle of silver alloy floating in suspension. She offered it to Elias. Symbols glimmered across its surface, then resolved into English. Sentinel Seed. Custodian. A Lyra of the 7th Choir. Primary Directive. Guard the archive. Secondary Directive. Await kin. Elias's throat tightened. You're a guardian, waiting for your people to return. Lyra touched her sternum, then pointed to the Earth hologram. She drew 2 orbits, one small and inner, Mercury, and a sweeping arc far beyond Pluto. She mimed cyclical return, then shook her head slowly, sorrow flooding her violet eyes. Elias understood, they were not coming back. When the storm cleared, Deep Core's tilt rotors roared overhead, disgorging black-armored personnel. Their leader, Commander Vale, strode into the dome with the chill of corporate authority. Dr. Ridgway, assets of unknown origin on company property fall under our jurisdiction. Stand down. Lyra, behind a containment screen, watched curiously as though studying a lesser species. Elias argued, pleaded, then in desperation, revealed the sentinel spindle. Mistake. Vale's eyes glittered. Proof of alien tech. That's trillions in patents. In the standoff that followed, Vale's men seized Lyra. The moment polymer restraints closed around her wrists, the sigil on her chest blazed white. Ice cracked through concrete floors. Frost flowers blossomed across metal rifles, freezing barrels solid. The air filled with a mournful chord of glaciers calving, except the sound came from Lyra's throat, a resonance that splintered steel. Lights burst. Generators failed. In darkness lit only by her radiance, Lyra rose, gravity shedding from her like water. The restraints shattered. With a gesture, she encased Vale's squad in pillars of clear ice, immobilized but alive. Yet violence was not her aim. She drifted to Elias, placed the spindle in his hands, and spoke 3 syllables that the translator AI finally deciphered. Keep her beside me. Then she collapsed, the light in her chest flickering as though the exertion had drained some vital reserve. Elias faced Vale, terrified, trembling but resolute. She is the archive. Harm her and you destroy knowledge older than earthly life. He offered a bargain. Deep Core could take credit for the discovery, but Lyra and the archive remained under scientific stewardship, governed by an international consortium, not corporate profit. Vale weighed options behind narrowed eyes. The frozen squad and failing infrastructure tipped the scales. He signaled retreat. Lyra's recovery was slow. The glacier had sustained her for epochs, but using its power within human structures had taxed her core. Elias sat at her bedside, spindle in hand, studying data projected in soft light, star coordinates, biological schematics, histories written in spectral color. He learned Lyra's people had seeded worlds with sentinels to steward biodiversity after a cosmic plague swept their empire. Earth, young and promising, received one guardian who would sleep until humanity evolved enough to protect its own cradle. But the homeworld fell. The recall never came. He pondered the ethics. Was humanity ready? Wars, greed, climate crisis, yet also art, empathy, curiosity. Lyra's gaze, when she finally opened her eyes, seemed to ask the same question. Outside, United Nations envoys arrived, along with astrophysicists, linguists, ethicists. A commission formed overnight. Lyra met them with calm dignity, speaking now through a synthesized English voice woven from her own timbre. She told them Earth stood at a pivotal cusp. The archive contained blueprints for clean energy drawn from quantum ice lattices, cures for diseases unborn, and star navigation charts. But she would release nothing until humanity demonstrated stewardship, not dominion, over its planet. The commission asked what tests she required. Lyra smiled, a gesture luminous and sad. "Heal the ice," she said, pointing toward the vast white horizon thinning each year. "Show me you can mend what you have broken." 18 months later, Elias stood on an observation deck of the newly built Glacial Nexus Station, a collaborative project of 100 nations. Outside, autonomous drones sprayed supercooled saline vapor, accelerating the growth of engineered ice structures designed to buttress collapsing shelves. It was a modest start, but metrics showed a measurable slowing of melt in pilot zones. Lyra, draped now in a fusion of her starlit fiber and human thermal fabric, watched beside him. The sigil in her chest glowed with steady strength. "You see progress," Elias ventured. "I see intent given form," she answered. Her voice carried both wind and chime. "Intent is the seed of tomorrow." On the horizon, Deep Core's old extraction camp lay abandoned, repurposed into a data hub cataloging every specimen retrieved from the archive. Not secrets hoarded, but knowledge shared across open servers. The Sentinel Initiative. Humanity, surprised by its own capacity for cooperation when stared down by a cosmic mirror, had begun rewriting its destiny. Lyra turned to Elias, extending the spindle. Its surface now displayed dual glyphs, her ancient sigil entwined with Earth's symbol for infinity. "The archive belongs to your world," she declared. "I was guardian. Now I am guest." Elias hesitated, overwhelmed. "What will you do?" She tilted her head, silver hair catching polar light. "Learn. Wonder. Perhaps plant new seeds where deserts once thrummed with life. Your planet sings many songs. I wish to hear them all." As auroras unfurled like celestial ribbons overhead, Elias realized the universe had widened beyond every childhood dream. Humanity's story, once confined to blue oceans and frail atmosphere, now stretched across epochs of lost civilizations and futures unimagined. Yet its next chapter began not with conquest, but with a promise to heal home first. Lyra stepped onto the snow, unafraid of the biting wind. She looked back only once, eyes reflecting green auroral flames. "Keep her beside me," she repeated softly. It no longer sounded like a title, but an invitation. Elias followed, leaving twin sets of footprints that the falling snow quickly blurred into one path, leading out onto the great white silence, toward horizons where alien stars and human hopes mingled in the cold, bright night.